this has to be a get-right game for Vic Fangio's unit. Why is that? This Browns offense is historically bad. Deshaun Watson has lost his confidence. He's lost some of his throwing and athletic ability. And this Browns team is playing awful offensive football right now. And I wasn't lying when I said it's to historic proportions. Austin Gale with this tweet this week: the bottom 10 offenses in EPA per drive since at least 2000, ladies and gentlemen. The Cleveland Browns rank 790th this year. And they are a part of a list that has featured some really lowly offenses throughout the course of NFL history. And I don't see how they're going to turn it around. Their offensive line is porous. Deshaun Watson has lost his confidence. He's not the same player that he was while with the Houston Texans. Kevin Stefanski hasn't done a good job of catering to his strengths. Deshaun Watson is not a scheme fit, and all of that has compounded. All of that has come to a point where the Browns are the only team in the NFL who have not scored more than 18 points in a game this season. The Browns have a 34.1% success rate this year. That is dead last among 32 teams in the National Football League. And it's become clear over time with Watson's couple of years in Cleveland that he is not a scheme fit for what Kevin Stefanski wants to do. And Kevin Stefanski is a pretty good coach in this league. He's been the coach of the year. We've seen his offenses be productive, but I think it's an indictment on Watson that Joe Flacco had so much more success than Watson's ever been able to have in Cleveland. And the trade for him, the contract giving him fully guaranteed money, it's going to go down as one of the worst maneuvers in the history of the NFL. Stefanski likes to run an outside zone, under center based offense. In 2020, Baker Mayfield, when he had a really good year, the Browns made it to the playoffs and they won a playoff game for the first time since the early 1990s when Bill Belichick was their head coach way back in the day, and Nick Saban was on that staff. Baker Mayfield was 29th in shotgun rate at 42%. In 2024, Deshaun Watson has been in the shotgun 82% of the time. That is 6th in the NFL. So Watson has never really been a drop back, under center, timing-based quarterback. And that's what Kevin Stefanski prefers to do. And now he can't really figure out what he wants to do from a play design, scheme, and play calling standpoint with Watson as the quarterback. Bottom 5 quarterbacks in success rate on throws of 2.5+ seconds after the snap. Deshaun Watson ranking 29th, and he's below Aaron Rodgers, Will Levis, Bo Nix, and Jacoby Brissett. Of course, it hasn't helped Watson that this Browns offensive line has arguably been the worst in the NFL. They have dealt with a lot of injuries, but Watson is getting pressured and sacked a lot. In fact, 5.2 sacks per game is dead last in the NFL. And when I watch Deshaun Watson, he's not playing decisively. He's not making quick decisions. And athletically, he's not running the same. And I think that he's lost his fastball a little bit. He suffered that shoulder injury last year, and the velocity isn't there. The deep ball isn't there. His accuracy has waned. And it's been wild to see this decline that has happened so precipitously. In 2020, while with the Houston Texans, I know that Houston that year went 4-12, but Watson's numbers were great, and he was a top 5, top 10 quarterback. He completed more than 70% of his passes. He threw for more than 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 picks, yards per attempt at 8.9, right? But in 2024, look at how much the numbers have gone down. Completion percentage down by 10%, and his yards per attempt, 4.8. That final year in Houston, he led the NFL in yards per attempt. And you look further at these numbers here, this is why the Browns made that trade. Now, of course, it was risky for them to make that trade given all of the weird things that were happening off the field for Deshaun Watson. I certainly wouldn't have made that move. I really like the player from what I saw in 2020, but he gets suspended in 2021 and he's never recovered. And I think there's something to be said for athletes who lose their competitive edge, who lose their fire, who lose their cockiness, who lose their swagger. We saw this with Tiger Woods after his family incident was never the same because he lost that edge, right? That made him really special, that made him a cold-blooded killer. And for Watson, weird personality traits, maybe that's impacted his confidence a little bit because he's not playing like a confident quarterback. So in this game against the Browns, Philadelphia should be able to, against this bad offensive line, get pressure on Watson. And if you do that, he'll put the ball in harm's way, he'll question what he sees, he'll hold on to the ball too long, and the Eagles should be able to dominate the Browns' offensive line, which is one of the worst in the NFL, and get pressure on Watson. They should also be able to generate turnovers. The Browns haven't been able to manufacture big plays. So Philadelphia, if they just let the top be taken off of the defense, if they have secondary breakdowns, if they can't generate pressure on the quarterback, this could go down as just a historically bad loss for Nick Sirianni, and I think that his job could be in jeopardy. What the Browns are going to try to do, because they can't pass protect, because they can't throw it, they're going to try to run the football. They're going to try to run the football a lot. And the Eagles at moments this year have struggled to stop the run. So they're going to have to stop the run. They're going to have to generate a pass rush. They're going to have Deshaun Watson under siege. They're going to have to tackle a little bit better. As for how the Browns stack up, they are 30th in points per game at 15.8, 32nd in yards per game, 32nd in yards per play, 32nd in third down conversion rate. They haven't had a lot of trips to the red zone, so these numbers are skewed. But when they get in the red area, they have capitalized with their red zone rate number 2 in the NFL. Their defense, again, they're not playing complementary football. So I think the Browns' defense is a little bit better than what these numbers indicate, but the Browns' offense hasn't helped them out. They're 22nd in points per game, but they are 12th in yards per game, 14th in yards per play, 12th on third down percentage, and 18th in the red zone. And, of course, Jim Schwartz, the former Eagles defensive coordinator, is their DC now. How the Eagles stack up compared to the Browns. There's been some good and some bad on the offensive side of the football. And I do think that when you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Lane Johnson back, it's just going to help this Eagles offense be the team that we know that they're capable of being. But right now, they're 18th in points per game, but they're 8th in yards per game, 15th in yards per play, 13th on third downs, 21st in the red zone. Those numbers have to get better. And with some firepower coming back, I think they will. Defensively, though, 21st in points per game, 27th in yards per game, 30th in yards per play, 16th on third downs, not bad, and 8th in the red zone. So on the money downs and in money situations, Vic Fangio's defense has been pretty solid. As for my keys to the game, the Philadelphia Eagles have to start fast. They are the only team in the NFL that hasn't scored any points in the first quarter this year. And because they're coming off the bye week, because pressure's on Nick Sirianni, because they have been a sloppy football team committing penalties that are avoidable the last year and change going into this year from 2023 to 2024, you can't come out sloppy. And if you do, the Boo Birds are going to be out and the pressure's going to be on. With the weapons coming back for the Eagles, they simply have to take advantage. Can Jalen Hurts finally play a clean game? 54 turnovers in his last 60 games. Play a clean game here for once, Jalen Hurts. And if you do that, and if the Eagles win the turnover battle, they can win this football game handily. If they lose the turnover battle once again, if he's sloppy, you give a dead team life. Since week 1, we have not seen as much pre-snap motion. Kellen Moore ran pre-snap motion about 65% of the time in week 1. Since then, the Eagles, for some reason, have gotten away from that. It's inexcusable in today's modern offensive era. More so, Philadelphia has to stop the run. It's the only way that Cleveland has a shot to upset Philadelphia's 9.5-point underdogs. Pressure Deshaun Watson, play bully ball against a bad offensive line. Can Bryce Huff finally do something? Can Jordan Davis put forward a good performance? Can Jalen Carter do what he did against the New Orleans Saints, what he is capable of doing? Can Josh Sweat pop off? I love what I've seen from the elder statesman in Brandon Graham. tackle, tackle, tackle. The Eagles were so sloppy in doing that against the Buccaneers, and Tampa Bay picked up, after those missed tackles, more than 100 yards. And that's part of the reason why that game got so out of hand early, and then it ended up being a blowout. And another thing to watch, a big change made by Philadelphia, Cooper DeJean over Avonte Maddox. He's expected to get the start there. How does he fare, and is he up to speed with Vic Fangio's defense? Who you got in this game? CLE for Cleveland, PHI for the Eagles. You always have a voice on this show. I think the Eagles come out guns a-blazing. I am hopeful this will serve as the launching pad for the rest of the year for Philadelphia. They make a statement. They win this game 31-17. They get their confidence going. They get some momentum working. The bye week gave them opportunities to get healthy, to figure out things schematically, offensively, and defensively, and the Birds win by 14. We'll catch you Sunday live here on Eagles Now. Don't miss it. We'll see you then.